Now I want to have a little discussion about performance. Our current setup for the player panel polls the player and updates the UI every frame. If we take a look at our player panel script again, I'll go find my player canvas, go grab a player panel, and just pop it up right here. See, in our update method, if we're bound to a player, we basically update the text every single frame and then update the hearts every single frame. And while that works and it's not really causing us any problems right now, there are some things to think about with this. A lot of the time when we have UI data or just data in general that isn't going to change often, like our health or our number of coins. And when I say isn't going to change often, I mean, is it going to change, more than once a second or very rapidly or very commonly? It's not something that's going to be changing like every single frame or multiple times a second. If we had some timer or some count up thingy, that would be a little bit different. But if we have something that's kind of a semi-rare event, at least taking damage should be a semi-rare event in this game, then what we can do instead of polling and reading the data is get notified with an event and update based on that. And there are some real big benefits to it. But first, I want to show you the performance characteristics of what we have right now, because you might be thinking, looking at this, oh no, this is a nightmare. We definitely have to fix this. We can't be just updating and reading things every single frame. But if I go into our code, into our project and press play, and then open up our profiler window, which we'll find under the window menu. Let's start playing. Under window, and then analysis and profiler. I'll grab the profiler window and I'm just going to dock it right in here with the game view. And remember that our code for the player panel is running every frame in the update. It does not care about anything that I do. If I go grab another coin, it's not going to change anything with the way that it's running. Let's take a look at the code though, or the performance data. Do that just to verify that I'm not making stuff up, and then talk about how we can optimize what little there is to optimize right now. So if I let this run and I just click on any frame, it's going to pause the game, and I'll go back to my profiler tab. A lot of the time I'll just pull the profiler down to the bottom, by the way, so that you can see it. In fact, let's do that. Pull the profiler down here. So if I select a frame, it's going to tell me exactly how long everything took for that specific frame. Right now, things are not taking very long. I'm going to hit unpause and just go to the stats window. See that things are not taking long at all. We've got, what am I getting, 40 frames a second? I was getting a lot more than that a moment ago, but I think because I started profiling, it dropped. But if I go click on a frame, and then expand out the player loop down here. So with CPU usage selected, I go click on any one of these frames, expand the player loop section, and then I want to look for the update script run behavior update. That's the part that's running my code. Script run behavior update. That's running all of the things that's in our update loops or in our update methods. There are other things that could show up here in our own code, but this is the one that we're going to worry about now, and the main one that you're going to see. So I'll expand this out again. You'll see behavior update, and below it, expand it out again, just hitting the right arrow, by the way, and the down arrow to go down. Below that, I lost it. You'll see that we've got our player update, and then down here we have our player panel update. If I look at the time for the player panel update, is that the time that it's running here is 0.04 milliseconds. That's extremely small. It's low enough to not really care about. It's being called 2 times because we have 2 player panels, the one over here on the right and the one on the left, but it is doing something bad that might not be as obvious, and that's this GC alloc. It's doing 24 bytes, and if I scroll through frames, you see that it's about the same every single frame. We get a low number in the milliseconds and 24 bytes. If I press play, let's see, and then just run over, I said I would run over here, grab some coins. You see that nothing's really spiking here. There's a couple little spikes right here, but they're not in this code. They're around the audio source playing. If I scrolled up, I could see a little bit more data on there, or some rendering stuff and editing things. But if I look at the actual code for my player panel here, or the timings for it, you see that it stays about the same. It's not changing. So what is this allocation, and how do we change all of this? Let's go back to the player panel script. So in the player panel script, the worst part that we have here is actually this right here, this toString method that's changing our integer value of coins into some text to pass it into the setText method. There's no easy way to optimize that and to get rid of that. There are some hacks that you can do, but the best thing that we can do is just only update the coins when our coins actually change. And we can do the same for our hearts. So let's start by adding an event for our coin updates so that we can get notified when coins change and then update the number of coins that we have. To do that, we're going to go back to our player script. And let's find the part of our code where we modify coins. Right here, we set the player data's coins in the coins section. So let's hit Shift F12, see where we set the coin data. And you see it's right here on player line 145, we do coins plus plus. So this is the part where we're adding a coin. So right after we add a coin or change the number of coins, we want to call an event or invoke an event that our player panel can listen to. This will be something that will fire off or invoke every time our coins change. So let's go up to the top and we're going to declare this event. I think we should do this right before our properties. So I'm going to add a line right here on line 34 and get a little bit of spacing. We'll add a public event with a lowercase e and then action with a capital A. We'll call this coins changed and add a semicolon. Now this is going to just allow us to invoke something called coins changed and have any number of things listen for when that coins changed is invoked. You can have events with parameters. This is not an event with parameters. If we had parameters, we would put the type right here, but maybe do like an int, and then we would be able to pass in an integer value, or we could do an int and a string or something else and pass in multiple parameters. I don't want any parameters for this though, so I'm going to delete both of those and just have public event action coins changed. I'll copy the word coins changed, and let's go find the part where we modify our coins with coins plus plus. Right here on after line 147, we'll add a new line called coins changed, and we want a question mark dot invoke. Now we could do just a dot invoke, but what that'll do is fail or blow up, or really it's going to give us a null reference exception if nothing is registered for this event. If we add a question mark here, it's going to check to see that something is registered before trying to invoke it. You might think, hey, shouldn't that be the default behavior? But hey, this is actually a pretty new thing. The way that you used to have to do it before was say if coins changed, let's see if I can get that spelled out right, then here we go. If coins change is not equal to null, then invoke it. But this new syntax of just doing it with a question mark, I think is quite a bit easier and works a lot better. Well, it doesn't work a lot better, but it makes it less code. So now we've got our coins changed event here being fired off when we add a point. Next thing we need to go to our player panel and tell it to listen to that coins changed event. We'll do that in the binding, and this is where you usually set up your event registrations in some sort of a binding method like this. So we'll say underscore player dot coins changed. There we go. Got to spell it all right. Plus equals, and we don't do an equals, we do a plus equals because we want to add something that's listening to this. Coins changed is an event, and with events you either add or remove things. You don't generally set them. There's some hacky ways you can do setting, but we want to do coins changed plus equals to add something to listen to this. And we could have other things listening to coins changed too. Audio systems, event systems like I can't get my word right. Achievement systems like that could be listening every time coins change. Let me know, see if we broke a record or something. You could have multiple things listening. Here we're going to listen with a method called update coins. I'll just type in the word update coins, add in my semicolon, go back to it, hit Alt Enter, and generate a method. I said we're going to have use a method named update coins because that's what seems like a good name for it. We'll remove the word private because I don't need the private keyword. And instead of throwing an exception and giving an error, let's delete that. We'll take our line 30 code here, cut it with Control X, and paste it into update coins. So now whenever our coins change, our update coins method should call. The last thing that we want to do is call update coins when we do our binding so that we get our coin value set immediately when we bind and we don't have to wait for it to change the first time before we actually set it in our UI. So I'll copy the word update coins here with our parentheses, put it onto line 19 so that we invoke it right after we register. So now we'll bind to our player, we'll cache that player into the player variable, we'll register for that player's coins changed event. So In the future, when the player's coins change, we'll get notified, and the coins, well, really, we won't get notified, but the update coins method will be called. That's the notification. And then we call the update coins method after we register for that event, just so that we have a good default initial value and we have the correct number of coins. Let's save, jump into Unity and see that in action, and then we'll look at the profiler and see if that cleared up our GC alloc, which is a garbage collection allocation, which I didn't even talk about the reason it's bad. So let's talk about that while it's loading. Garbage collection allocation, or GC allocs, are really memory being allocated by your computer to be used for something and needing to be cleared up later. There we go. Look at that. We're getting coins and the UI is updating. Let's go look at this here, though, and see if we're getting a bunch of GC allocs. So go down here to my player panel here and see that we've got 0 bytes. I should be able to scroll through eventually and find the one where my coins changed. Let's see if I can do that. I don't know how many frames ago that was. Somewhere in here, maybe I'm not going to be able to find this specific frame, but there should be a frame where I generated every time I actually hit a coin, I should be generating 24 bytes of garbage. Now, the reason this is a problem is specifically on mobile devices. Regathering all of that memory that you keep allocating over and over causes those little spikes and hiccups that you see on mobile devices. It's a lot more pronounced on older devices, and it's definitely not going to be an issue with 24 bytes on this little thing, but it does build up. So garbage collection allocations are one thing that you definitely want to worry about. We're going to be talking a lot more about that when we dive into pooling as well. The time, though, is pretty good, so no real noticeable difference there. You see it's still at 0.0. It's actually faster. It went from 0.02 to 0.0 because we're no longer doing anything of any real work. So small optimization, not extremely useful right now, but it's going to come in handy to start understanding these concepts and to see what other kinds of stuff we can do with events in the next section. Now let's go into Plastic and commit our changes. Say that we switched the coin interface to use an event, and we'll check that in.